In Russell County, a 5-year police veteran is accused of raping a woman while in police custody. I'm News 3's Ashley Garrett with an update from neighbors who claim to know him.
A West Point woman arrested on a slew of sexual assault charges lands herself back in jail for arson and attempted murder. We'll explain.
The courtroom's closed at least until Monday, now that we know the jurors who will serve for the rest of the Upatoy triple murder trial. I'm News 3's Michaela Singleton with an update on today's developments in court. Coming up.
Becoming more confident with timing of the systems. We're going to have two systems we're going to track and show you how it's going to bring in weather that's going to be a little bit more active in the second half of this weekend. The news starts right now.
On your side, this is News 3 First Edition.
Obviously, by his own admission, violates the very law that we are sworn to protect. And it's angry. It makes me angry.
Shock and anger coursing through two East Alabama law enforcement agencies today after arresting one of their own. Good afternoon. We thank you for trusting News 3 as your source for news at 5/4 Central Time. I'm Phil Scoggins. First this afternoon, a shocking story out of Russell County today. A former Phoenix City police officer is behind bars accused of raping a woman while she was in police custody. The man you see behind me right here is that officer, 35-year-old Eldrick Kennedy. Russell County Sheriff Heath Taylor made the announcement at a news conference earlier this afternoon. News 3's Ashley Garrett is live outside the Russell County Jail where Kennedy is currently being held. She has neighbors' reaction. Ashley.
Phil, I managed to catch up with neighbors at the officer's Fort Mitchell address, and they didn't want to go on camera, but they did tell me that the wife is pregnant again and that she was completely blindsided by today's news. I caught up with Sheriff Taylor after the conference, and he mentioned that they first became alerted to the incident after the female victim in the case paid a visit to the sheriff's office yesterday. Let's take a look now at that suspect as I catch you up to speed with this investigation. Police say part of the reason why they believe the allegations against Kennedy could be true is because he turned off his body camera shortly after arresting the victim. Sheriff Taylor says the woman was arrested after shoplifting at the Piggly Wiggly on 280 in Phoenix City. He says the officer then took the woman to an undisclosed location on U.S. Highway 431, having sex with her while she was still wearing handcuffs. Sheriff Taylor says when asked, Kennedy did not appear to deny the sexual claims.
He did, for the most part, confess to the elements of rape first. The difference between his story and hers was that he said it was consensual and she said it was not, that she was scared and fearful. We all know that there is no consensual when you're in custody, so that doesn't play a part in this case.
Sheriff Taylor stood next to Police Chief Ray Smith during today's news conference, and both say they can understand why the community would have a lack of trust in law enforcement given this incident and other incidents involving police nationally. But they say despite this, they're encouraging the community to not lose faith.
I don't care what the scenario is. I don't care what the circumstance is. You have to know and trust that your law enforcement agency is going to do the right thing.
Number one priority is the protection of this community, the citizens of Russell County and Phoenix City, and that starts with our departments, and we'll continue to do that, and make no mistake about it, there will never be a time that an allegation like this is brought to mine or the sheriff's attention that swift action will not be taken.
Kennedy has since been terminated from the Phoenix City Police Department, and right now he's being held in the Russell County Jail on a $60,000 bond. Coming up on the news at 6, we'll learn of efforts that are now underway to have Kennedy transported from the Russell County Jail to Lee County Jail. For now, though, I'll send things back to you in the studio. Live in Russell County and on your side, Ashley Garrett, WRBL News 3.
Thanks for that live report, Ashley. And according to the Phoenix City Police Department, Kennedy was a 5-year veteran with their force. In a story that you heard first right here on News 3, a West Point woman is in the Troup County Jail after police say she set an apartment duplex on fire earlier this week. 44-year-old Wanda Buckner is facing charges of aggravated sexual battery, aggravated sodomy, and aggravated assault. These charges come from an incident back in August. Charges of attempted murder and arson were added to the list after the incident this week. According to the police report, Buckner set fire to the Avenue K duplex on January 29th. Neighbors say that the fire happened in the middle of the night and both apartments were occupied, one by a single mother and her 3 children. A friend close to the mother spoke with News 3's Jesselyn Adams, and we will hear what she has to say coming up later next hour on Evening Edition. The jurors and the alternates have been selected and seated for the Upatoy triple murder trial. They will hear evidence in the case that centers around the murders of 54-year-old Gloria Short, her 17-year-old son Caleb Short, and her 10-year-old granddaughter Gianna Lindsay. They were all found stabbed and beaten to death inside Gloria Short's home on January 4th of 2016. News 3's Michaela Singleton has been in this courtroom all week long. She's joining us now with details about the jury selection process today.
Well, these courtroom doors behind me, they're locked up tight, and they're going to stay that way for the rest of the weekend. Now that we know the 12 jurors and their 4 alternates who are going to serve for the rest of the Upatoy triple murder trial. It's been a long week of questioning, plea deals, and negotiating to make it to this point. The prosecution and defense agreed on 9 men and 7 women, with 7 of those jurors being African American and 9 Caucasian. This after 4 days of rigorous questioning and the 3 defendants in the case suddenly being whittled down to 1. 21-year-old Raheem Gibson will be one of the first 10 witnesses for the prosecution. Part of his plea deal includes testifying against 17-year-old Rufus Burks, the only remaining defendant going to trial. 19-year-old Javarsay Tapley was also set to plead guilty without a deal on the first day of questioning, January 29th, but he suddenly changed his mind on the stand. He changed his mind again the next day after his lawyer says he had time to think about the victims' families.
But I do know he's a young kid, and this is all around a bad situation, and he was afforded the opportunity to make a decision on his own with provided all relevant information and evidence to him, and he made a decision, and he entered a plea.
With only 1 defendant left, Burks' attorney motioned for a change of venue and to start the jury selection process over again, but Judge McBride denied her requests. When these doors open back up Monday at 9 a.m., I'll be live tweeting all the developments, starting with opening statements. On your side at the Columbus Government Center, Michaela Singleton, WRBL News 3.
And you can also follow the proceedings in this case on our website at WRBL.com. The final sentence hearing for Larry Nassar erupted in chaos today after listening to his daughters describe being abused by their former sports doctor. One father tried to take matters into his own hands. Randall Margraves has 3 daughters who told their stories of sexual abuse as athletes from the Elite Twisters Gymnastics Club. Margraves lunged at Nassar in the courtroom after the judge denied his request to have a minute alone with Nassar. The judge says Randall Margraves' outburst was direct contempt, but she chose not to punish his behavior. An update now on a Columbus murder investigation. The second suspect in last week's deadly shooting along Wickham Drive has now been arrested by the Columbus Police Department. Investigators tell News 3 35-year-old Carl McClendon faces a murder charge in the shooting of 25-year-old Lachey Ford on January 24th. Authorities arrested 34-year-old Dwayne Jones earlier this week in El Paso, Texas. Jones also faces murder charges in Ford's death. Taking a live look outside now from our Phoenix City Amphitheater camera, a brisk wind made it feel pretty chilly out there today. Chief Meteorologist Bob Jeswell with our first check of the forecast now. Hey, Bob.
Oh, certainly a 180 from yesterday. There's no question about it. We had some 60s out there, but here we are looking at a bright day. We're going to give you another bonus day coming up on Saturday, but right now we're looking at temperatures in the 40s. We actually got into the 50s earlier. We're at 48 degrees, Phoenix City Amphitheater camera, and still exceptionally dry. It's that north wind that's been pumping in here behind that front, and we did manage to get some rain. We'll talk more about that in just a moment because we actually need more to make more of a dent, if you will, in our drought conditions. all being said, that is temporary, but we're going to be watching that coming out in the future. 24-hour forecast, though, mighty cold. We're going to see some freezing temperatures, some sub-freezing, and we're going to look at a nice day shaping up for Saturday. Okay, some high clouds out there, but we're going to still see a lot of sunshine, too. And then we'll talk about two systems we're focused on. Phil, this is the real big weather story here. The timing of these, how they come in, and how it'll redirect that storm over to coastal areas of Texas coming into our region. So be prepared for a wet Sunday. That's what we're going to talk about coming up.
All right, thank you, Bob. Making news across America today, the secret memo Washington has been talking about for weeks. No longer a secret. This afternoon, Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee released the 4-page document with President Trump's blessing. Mola Linghi reports from the White House.
President Trump gave GOP lawmakers the green light to release the classified memo and told reporters what it describes is a disgrace to the country.
A lot of people should be ashamed of themselves, and much worse than that.
The now public memo's subject, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act abuses at the Department of Justice and the FBI. It alleges those agencies obtained multiple warrants to track Trump campaign official Carter Page, based on the dossier compiled by a former British spy who was paid by the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign.
And to my knowledge, this is the first time in American history that the FBI and Justice Department have been weaponized through the actions of a political party.
Senior FBI officials appealed to the White House to stop the memo's release, warning it could set a dangerous precedent and expressing grave concerns about its accuracy. Democrats share those concerns. Congressman Adam Schiff is the leading Democrat on the House panel.
There's no evidence of a corrupt effort to obtain warrants against people in the Trump campaign.
Democrats see the memo as a partisan effort to damage the credibility of the FBI and undermine Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation.
It's a tremendous disservice to the American people who are going to be misled by this, by the selective use of classified information.
Democrats have a counter memo they want released. The White House indicated Friday administration officials would be willing to work with Congress to make that happen. Mola Lenghi, CBS News, the White House.
Alarming news from Wall Street today as the markets took a nosedive. In fact, stocks ended their worst week in 2 years. The Dow Jones Industrials plummeted 666 points. Percentage-wise, it's the Dow's biggest drop since June of 2016. The Nasdaq dropped 145 points. And coming up still on First Edition, we are taking a live look now at the 6th annual Women's Heart Health Awareness event at Columbus State University. Our own Teresa Whitaker will be joining us later on with some details about that. Meanwhile, as always, the best way to stay connected with us right here at WRBL, like and follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with the latest breaking news, sports, and weather.
Phil, I got to tell you something. Today ended up becoming mighty cool compared to yesterday at this time, but we are mighty seasonal, which means we're average. Come on. We've been certainly experiencing some of that. We got some measurable rain to talk about. Not from this morning. We got more coming up in this forecast straight ahead.